Okay, we're holding over here still in the third of the principles of faith. And, everybody's asking what is the response to all that is going on in the world today with coronavirus and the pandemic and the panic that is taking place. One of my children last night couldn't fall asleep, and they ended up crying because they keep hearing all these horrible things about the virus, and this one's saying this, and this one's saying this. And it all boils down to one thing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want us to panic. Hashem runs the world. And whatever is happening right now is because He's got a master plan over here, and there is what we would call a midas adin. There's some attribute of judgment that's looming over the entire world. When was the last time the entire world is connected through this tragedy, this horrible thing which is taking place? So the entire world is being affected right now. You have things, people are affected, you have families get affected, you have communities get affected, you have states that get affected, you have countries that get affected, but here we have something, the entire world is all being affected right now. And we have to believe, as our Maimonim, as we are believers in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that Hashem is the one that is doing all of this. There is certainly a grand reason behind it all. We might not be privileged to understand. But the worst thing of all that a person can do under these situations and these circumstances is to become paralyzed in fear. Because that's certainly not what Hashem wants. Even in the worst of times of the Jewish people throughout the centuries and generations, we're talking about Holocaust and pogroms and inquisitions. The crowning glory of Klal Yisrael was and always will be that when there is suffering and when there are difficulties that are going on in the world, and when there are tragedies and when there are hardships and there are challenges that seem insurmountable for a person to overcome, one thing, a person that walks around with emunah and bitachon, they walk around with trust and faith in Hashem, they can always have, as the Chovis Levavos writes, you can always be a person with menuchas hanefesh, with peace of mind. The world could be crumbling around you. There could be death and sickness, God forbid, at every corner that you look at. But a person who knows that they are connected to Hashem and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is running the world and He's taking this whole situation is also part of the orchestration of what He has in mind. So then we go with emunah, we go with our faith and our bitachon, the trust that we have that God knows what He's doing. So that allows us to go through this b'menuchas hanefesh. Now that means at the same time, of course, we have to do what's called hishtadlus. We have to make our efforts. We have to do what is normal, which means that if all the doctors say you have to wash your hands often in 20 seconds and with soap and warm water, and you have to have your little spray thing over there, the sanitizer, your sanitizer, and you have to keep a few bottles around the house. And you have to stop shaking people's hands, and you have to not hug people, and you don't kiss people, and you don't kiss the Sefer Torah, and you don't kiss your siddur, all the different things that we're not going to do right now, and we're going to be careful where we expose ourselves to and where we go to and the events that we attend. All of that is the efforts that a person is going to make, which we have to, because that's part of this physical world that we're in. But transcendent of all of that is that Hashem is running the world. And as long as a person believes in the heart of hearts that Hashem runs the world, that means that we have nothing to fear. Whatever is going to happen is going to happen. I told my son last night, I said, are you afraid of getting strep throat? He said, no. Are you afraid of getting ear infection? No. Are you afraid of getting a cold? No. I said that if that's the case, you don't have to be afraid of this either, because for you, a young, healthy boy, even if, God forbid, the worst thing would happen is that you would end up getting, God forbid, your symptoms will be probably no more than the average cold or the flu, and you're young and you're healthy and you'll rest and you'll stay home and you'll get better. So you don't have to worry. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is running the world. So I said, let's use this as an opportunity. We'll pray to Hashem that He should protect us and our family and our communities and our friends. And we shouldn't know the harm, and we shouldn't be standing in the way of these things that are going on. Listen, that being said, what could be greater opportunity for us during these times, these very trying times that we find the whole world, Rav Chaim Kanievsky, who is the leader of the Torah nation today, who is known to have maybe hundreds of people passing through his doors every single day, coming for advice, coming for blessings, coming with questions. They just announced that he's no longer seeing anybody in his house because he's an older man. He has not been healthy 100% the last several years, and they're not going to even take a chance of exposing him to one person that, God forbid, has this virus with them and end up harming his life. So if the Gadol Adur, if the leader of the generation is going to be just that careful, that means that's the hishtadlus, that's what he feels that he has to do. We will do our hishtadlus, we'll make our efforts as well. But with all that being said, the greatest effort that we can make is to continue growing and strengthening ourselves in this realm of Amunah, of our faith in Hashem, and solidifying for ourselves the Yud Gimel Ikrim, these 13 principles of faith, which literally are the foundations of what it means to be a Jew and what our belief system is really all about. And that itself is a schus, that itself is a merit, because the higher that we get in this world of Amunah, and the clearer that our understanding becomes of Hashem in His Metzias, His essence to what we could understand, and the way in which He runs the world, again, to the extent that we're able to reach in our perception, so that itself allows us to stay connected and firm and at peace and at ease of mind over the situation that is going on in the world. Again, be diligent in the efforts that you make to protect yourself. At the same time, do not become consumed with everything that you read in the paper and everything that the news is blasting out to us all day long, and all of the terrible WhatsApp videos that people are sending around where you just see people lying there dead on the ground, God forbid. Just forget about all that and just think about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Be smart, be safe, but let our emunah be the guiding force that will get us through these trying times. So we mentioned in this of the third of the principles of faith is this idea that Hashem has no goof, He has no body, He has no corporality, I guess how we call it. He is incorporeal, which means He is not a physical being at all, and there is nothing physical about Him. There's nothing even that relates to the physical world about Him. You cannot find anything in this world that is similar to Hashem at all. And we explained in the previous week on this of the Yud Gimel Ikrim, we explained fascinating insights and ideas that are very eye-opening. And this, one of the main things that I believe that we spend time discovering is that HaKadosh Baruch not being physical means that HaKadosh Baruch is separate from everything that we identify as being part of this physical world, which doesn't only mean the body and the physicality of the person, but even our midos, even our character traits, are only our character traits because they are intimately linked in to the physical reality that we are a part of. Which means I get angry at somebody because they cross my path and they upset me or they disappoint me or they frustrate me. So the only one that can really get angry is a person that has to deal with the people and the situations that are here in this physical world. I rejoice, I get happy because something goes my way, because something happened that I wasn't expecting, and it really makes me feel very good, and therefore it feels like the air is on, yeah? It's how we're fighting that's how we're fighting the coronavirus over here. We're gonna freeze the virus in this room. So we're saying like this, we're saying that the only way in which a person even reacts in their world of midas, the world of character traits, their emotions are physical. The emotion of lethargy, the emotion of sadness, the emotion of happiness, the emotion of excitement, the emotion of enthusiasm. These are all products of being here in the physical world, which means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is not physical at all, that's what we're saying over here. There's not even a shemitz, there's not even an ounce, not even a grain of physicality or relation to the physical world that Hashem has. That means all of these traits that we are discussing, all of these, the emotional complexities of a human being, none of that exists at all by Hashem. Now, the issue is that we have with this is that, and we began to speak about this last time, is that when you look inside the Chumash, and you look inside Tanakh, you look at all the Nevi'im and the Ksuvim, you look in the Talmud, which tells amazing stories about how He runs this world, His interaction with human beings, we find time and time again that there are physical attributes that are ascribed to Hashem. And not only are there physical attributes, but there are these emotional and character trait attributes that are also ascribed to Hashem. So we're saying over here, it's not true. It can't be because Hashem is not physical. Everything that has everything that has a physicality to it, everything that has power, that has the physical might, everything that has the war and the battles and the outstretched arm, all that's physical. Hashem is not any of that. And Hashem doesn't get angry because He can't get angry because He's not part of the physical world. Hashem can't laugh because He doesn't have a mouth. And He doesn't look at the world the way that we look at the world, and something strikes Him as funny, so therefore He starts laughing. So then why do Psukim tell us, why do the verses tell us, no, Hashem is the outstretched arm, and Hashem got angry because He's the man of war, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu laughed when He saw this take place? What does that mean? So we described last time that what it means is, it doesn't mean what you think that it means. Because don't limit and don't lower HaKadosh Baruch Hu into the physical world, because that would be disgracing Hashem. He's so much more exalted, lofty beyond that. Remember, before there was a physical world, when Hashem created the world, yesh ma'ayin, something from nothing, there only was Hashem. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not physical. And the fact that there's a world, Hashem didn't change Himself to become part of the physical world. Hashem remains exactly who He was. And we're going to speak about that more today. He remains exactly who He was, this spiritual entity that has no connection at all to physicality. So then what is all the physical descriptions of Hashem? All of that is just for the human mind to be assuaged, as we would say, to be able to have some kind of a concept in our minds that we could understand what it is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, His Hanhaga, the way that He runs the world. It's not who He really is, but He has to give us some kind of a glimpse into His greatness, into His awesomeness, in order that we should know how exactly it is that Hashem is running the world, so that we can relate to Him. Hashem has to be relatable. If He would not be relatable, then we would never be Maimon and we would never believe. If Hashem would be so omniscient and so powerful, and there would be nothing at all that we could understand of His essence, so then we wouldn't even know what we're believing in. It would be completely blind faith. And as we spoke about in the beginning of this series, Hashem doesn't want blind faith. He doesn't ask for that. He wants us to know about Him. He wants us to understand Him in the best way that we can. So therefore, all of these midas, all of these character traits that we ascribe to Hashem, all of these emotions that we use to describe the way that Hashem interacts with the world, all of the physical manifestations of Hashem's power that we explain, and that are explained so beautifully in the Chumash and throughout Tanakh, all of that is just for the human mind, which is finite, which is confined over here in our physical existence. It's merely so that we should be able to understand how Hashem is running this world. But again, it's not really Hashem. And that we have to keep in mind. He's not an outstretched arm. He doesn't have the flaring nostrils when He gets angry. He doesn't yischak b'moram, He doesn't laugh in the heavens like we chuckle and we laugh at a good joke. It doesn't work like that. But in that way we can begin to understand who Hashem is, so that we can relate to Him, so that we can believe. You can only believe in that which you can relate to. You cannot believe in something that is so far beyond your understanding and your knowledge and your insight and your connection. You just simply can't believe in such a thing. And therefore, Hashem made it in a way that we should be able to believe in Him by making Him, He allows Himself to appear in our minds. He allows Himself to appear as something that is tangible. Now, but again, at the end of the day, He doesn't have a body. And at the end of the day, He doesn't have eyes. And He doesn't have a nose. He doesn't have ears that hear. He doesn't have any of this. So we left off with a question at the end of the last year. And that is, if that's the case, so then what does it mean that Hashem made us B'Tselem Elokim? Hashem made us in His image, but He doesn't have an image. He doesn't have a body. He doesn't have a nose. He doesn't have ears. He doesn't have a nostril. He doesn't have anything. He doesn't even have emotions the way that we have it. He doesn't have character traits the way that we have it. So what does it mean then that Hashem created us in B'Tselem Elokim, in His image, in his demus, in his appearance, when Hashem doesn't have an appearance and He doesn't have an image? So what exactly does that mean? So who are we then? We're also beyond and above. We're also some kind of an illusion over here of, well, you think that we have arms, you think that we have legs, you think that we have emotions, but since that we're created in the image of God, so we don't really have any of those things either. But what exactly does that mean? So in the sefer that we've been using, the Yud Gimel Ikrim by Rabbi Zion Epstein, he starts off with the following idea. In the Nefesh HaChaim it writes, it speaks about Hashem being Kadosh, being holy. What does it mean that Hashem is holy? And he says, Ki Kadosh Perusha Muvdal V'Na'ala. Kedusha, holiness, means separate and elevated above. Kedusha doesn't mean holiness. That's what we think it means. If a person is a holy person, they're a Kadosh. That's not what Kedusha means. Kedusha we find throughout always means separate. Right? When Hashem says that Kedoshim Tiyu, you should be holy, Ki Kadosh Ani Hashem Elokechem, because I Hashem am holy, your God. What does it mean? It doesn't mean be a holy spiritual person. It means separate yourself from the physicality of this world, just like I, Hashem, in my holiness, am separated from the physicality of this world. So he writes, V'hu kifi Hashem etzido yizbarach shu be'emes mufrash u'muvdal. Hashem, in reality, is completely separated from this world. U'ma'oy na'ale mikol inyani achilukim hashinu mechalila. And He's certainly above any physicality, any of the things that take place in this world, which change, which go through phases, which are bound by the time, the space, and the place of this world. Hashem is not bound by any of that. He's completely distanced from there. So, in the beginning of our understanding of what it means to be B'Tselem Elokim, in the image of God, if God's image is not something that's really contained within this world, because He's Kadosh, He's Muvdal, He's separated from this world, that means that the tselem, the image that I'm going to be of Hashem, also has to have some kind of separation from this physical world. There must be something unique about myself, which has a godliness. I am the tselem Elokim, the image of God. It must mean that image has nothing at all to do with my arms, my legs, my fingers, it has nothing at all to do with that. And even as we seem to be saying, not even my emotions are really the Tselem Elokim, the image of God. Hashem is, Ani Hashem lo shanisi. I am Hashem, I have never changed. I have never changed. Now what does that mean? If once in a while Hashem will get angry, and sometimes He will get happy. He's changing. Yeah? We know ourselves. Yeah, in our weakened natures, so we're like yo-yos. We're like emotional yo-yos. We're up and down. 1 minute, we're angry, we're upset, we're grumpy, we're in a bad mood. The next minute, somebody makes us feel good, and I can start laughing, and I'll forget about what a grump I am, and I'll be happy. And then, how long is that happiness going to last? Until the next thing happens in my life that throws me a curveball, and then I'm going to take down my happiness another notch. And then I'm hungry, so when I'm hungry, I'm starting to look for food and this and that. Once that I ate already, so now I'm not so hungry anymore. And so on and so forth, all of the different traits that there are in a person, we are mishtana, we are changing all of the time. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't change. If Hashem, Ani lo shanisi, Hashem says, I don't change. So then why does it say that you get angry? Why does it say that you get sad? Why does it say that you cry? Why does it say that you laugh? Why does it say that you are forceful? Why does it say that you are merciful? That seems that you are changing Hashem. Well, no, you can't say such a thing. Because if you say that, then that means that Hashem changes. And Hashem already told us He doesn't change. These changes that take place inside, the emotional roller coaster that a person goes on, the desires that a person has, the tiredness or the hungriness or the awakeness that a person feels constantly within their life, all of that is only relegated to the physical world that we are a part of, in this lowly, earthy type of a world. Yeah, Avahu Baruch Hu Yisbarach Hashem, v'Yizrayim al HaKoil. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is above and everything in the world over there, and this is quoting the Rambam right now, impossible, He doesn't change. He doesn't change. So Hashem doesn't change, we change. Why do we change? Because we're part of this world. So if we're changers, if we mix things up, if we make advancement in one area and then we fall back in another area, so how in the world can we be Tzelem Elokim? How can we be a representative of the image of God when we are so different than everything else? So to explain this, he says over the following idea. And he writes that if you look in the Zayar in Parshas Yisro, HaKadosh Baruch Hu barasa Adam. Hashem created man. V'sider by kol hatzura shel sodos elyonim shel ha'olam ha'elyon. And he implanted inside of man all of the tzuros, all of the forms, the shapes, the essences, I guess we'll call it, that exist in the higher realms. Everything that we have in the spiritual worlds finds itself inside of man. That's one statement of the Zohar. The Zohar then also says, Rabbi Abba Pasach v'yivres ha'adam b'tzelmai. He said the pasuk says Hashem created man b'tzelem, in His image. Tachazi, come and take a look. B'shaita debar kutchabrichu la'adam. At the time that Hashem created man, He made him in the image of that which is above and that which is below. And a man contains everything inside of him. Man contains the upper worlds, the spiritual, totally spiritual worlds, and man contains the lower worlds, which is these earthly worlds around us. Man is in the total image of Hashem, but what is the image of Hashem that we can relate to? It means that in this world, where there's the physical world and there's the world above, I think there's a Zohar that says that every part of creation gave a piece of itself into the creation of man. And that's why every person has so many different traits that are there, because each and every part of the creation implanted inside of us, imbued part of its essence towards us. That's why do we find that we often use animals in Chazal, or even in the Torah itself? Klal Yisrael is often referred to as different animals in order to teach us about our nature. It's a very lowly thing if you think about it. You read all these children's books, and what do? Instead of having human families over there, they have animal families over there. You're a bear family, you're a dog family, you're a cat family. Why do they do that? Because they're degrading us and lowering our existence to the same thing as an animal. But the Torah itself is the master. When Yaakov Avinu blesses all of his children, he compares them to animals. When Moshe at the end of the day gives brachas to Klal Yisrael, he compares them to animals. Why? Because the Zohar explains over there that every animal from creation implanted part of its essence inside of the creation of man. Everybody shared their essence with Hashem to help create man. which means that just like a lion has gevura, has strength, that same gevura, that same strength is there inside of a man. When Rabbi Yerucham Levovitz, the great mashkiach of the Mir Yeshiva in Europe, once had to travel to England, one of the things that he wanted to do in England was he wanted to go to the zoo. You heard there's such a thing called the zoo where they have animals, all the different animals in the world behind bars, and you can go and see them. In Europe at the time, there was no such thing as a zoo. So he went to the zoo, and people were shocked. The great Rabbi Yerucham wants to go to the zoo, so he took along his talmidim, his students that were with him, and he went through every animal. And as they went to every animal, he would quote the words of Chazal and the words of the Torah that spoke about that animal. And he said, look at the lion. Look at the roar of the lion. Look at the gvur. Look at the strength of the lion. And you should know all of that you have inside of yourself. Right? When it says in the opening lines of the Shulchan Aruch that a person has to wake up, arouse themselves in the morning, ka'ari. Yeah, they have to be like a lion when they get up. Yeah, and they have to roar like a lion. No, that's what's inside of you. So therefore, all of that, the whole world is inside of us. Nevertheless, that's not the image of Hashem, because Hashem's not the lion, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not the sun, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not the emotions, Hashem doesn't have any of these things. So what does it mean that we are B'Tselem Elokim, that we are in the image of God? This is exactly not the image of God that we find ourselves in. So he writes over here the following, he quotes the Ramchal. The Ramchal says in his Sefer Das Tevunos the following, Na'aseh Adam b'Tzelmeinu k'demusenu, let us make man Kitsalmenu in our image, ubedemusenu, and in our form. Ki b'chol hamidais hamu'ulais asher nivchanim b'chvaydo yizbarach, all of the exalted midas, character traits that can be found within Hashem, b'yosel paya lefi erech nivroyev. You're only going to find them, actually be able you'll find that you'll be able to understand them according to the way that they are found inside of his creations. Ki nimtza chalokim b'demus ha'adam. You will find parts of the essence of Hashem imbued inside of man. Derech mashal, he says, let me explain this to you. Ayin tachas hashkachasa shemashkiach. Why did Hashem give us eyes? What do you need eyes for? Okay, you need eyes to see. Yeah, we understand that. Why did Hashem make us creatures? Remember, Hashem's not physical. So he's creating a physical world, and the physical manifestation of a human being is supposed to be something that is the most an image of Hashem. So that means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu felt it's necessary in the creation of man to give us eyes in order that we will be able to be considered the image of godliness. What is that? Says the Ramchal, that just as a human being has eyes, and they can see where they're going, and they can look around the world, and they can be mashkiach, they can oversee what's happening. So you should know that Hashem has an eye, not an eye like we have, but Hashem is also watching over the world, and He sees everything that is taking place. Oiznayim la'adam, Hashem gave man ears. That means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a creation where we're going to be able to hear. Why did He have to make a physical world where we can hear? Says the Ramchal, because Masha HaKadosh Baruch Hu machshiv l'tfiloi seim shel b'nei Adam, just like Hashem listens to the prayers of the people down here, that we learn from the ears, that we're able to hear other people talking to us. When you hear your child or your grandchild begging you, please, Bubby, I want. You're supposed to think to yourself, just like I'm listening to my child cry and ask and beg, so too HaKadosh Baruch Hu listens to me as well. V'asui gufa shel adam yaminu smile. A man's body has a right and a left. We could have just been like one, yeah? You could have just been like arms, one arm in front of you. Why do He make us a right and a left? Because Hashem also, we speak about the right and we speak about the left. Im lechesed, im leshevet. Sometimes there's chesed, which is the right hand, Kodesh Baruch Hu's kindness. There's the left hand, the weaker hand. That's where Hashem puts in his midas hadin, his attribute of judgment. La yamin lezechus, the right side is the meritorious. Ola asmo lechayva, the left side is indicative of the negatives, the negative parts that we're going, the negative things that Hashem is going to do. Says the Ramchal, and he says, and really we have to understand this very well. That means that your whole physical existence, which we are calling right now in the Demos, is in the image of Hashem, is in the tselem, it's in the appearance, so to speak, of Hashem. Everything that we have in the physical world is only so that we should be able to understand in some microcosmic way how it is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu interacts in this world. Our eyes, chas v'chalil that Hashem has eyes, but your eyes teach you that you could see and you could watch over things. So you should know then that HaKadosh Baruch Hu also is watching over everything. Your ears, Hashem doesn't have a big set of elephant ears up in the heavens that he can listen to everything that we're saying, but just as you could hear, and just as you can listen, and just as you can hear things sometimes far away, and now the advent of things that are recording, so you could hear something that was recorded thousands and thousands and thousands of miles away. They have all these complicated systems in which they go into the stratosphere and they are listening for the sound of creation. You know that they do in science. They're listening, they're trying to get into the beyond what we could see light years away, where they're trying to hear the noise of the creation of the universe. So if human beings figured out how to make microphones that are able to pick up sound waves hundreds of thousands of miles away, then don't be surprised that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can hear hundreds of thousands of miles away what is going on in this world. So our bodies that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us, it's not B'Tselem Elokim, which means our bodies are not in the image of God. Rather, it comes out a fascinating idea, and that is the reason that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us the way that he did is so that when we look at our hardware, when we look at all of the parts of our physical body, that itself will teach us what the way in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself is actually working and running this world. Which means he made a body for us to be able to understand him better. That's what the pasuk says, Kol atzmaisai taimana, all of my limbs, they cry out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And David HaMelech says that in my flesh, I'm able to see Hashem. What does that mean? In your flesh, you're able to see Hashem. It's very good what we're saying over here. Literally in your flesh, literally in the body, the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created you, the way in which Hashem made your eyes and your ears and your mouth that you can talk, and your nose that you can smell, and your legs that you can run, and your arms that you can do things, literally in the way that Hashem made you, you can see Hashem. How? Because Hashem made your flesh in order that you should see him. Because he wants you to be able to understand the way that he's running the world. So what does it mean? Tselem Elokim? Shekol Eivei Adam. Your body is not just a physical body that Hashem created. Rather, your body itself is the greatest pronouncement. It's the greatest display of the fact that there is a Ribono Shel Olam. Hashem is not physical. So Hashem doesn't have a body. And therefore, there really shouldn't be any physicality in this world. What's the reason that there's physicality in this world? It's all so that we should be able to have a deeper understanding of the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. Our body proclaims the existence of Hashem. Our body teaches us. Eyes, Hashem is watching. Ears, Hashem is listening. Hands, Hashem is doing things. Legs, Hashem is going places. Heart, which is the center of everything. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is at the center of everything. All of that is to be able to teach us how to understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu in our life. Which is, it's an amazing, amazing idea, because that means that you could look at yourself and you can get a chizuk, you could be inspired in Amunah. You could look at the way in which your body works and you can realize Hashem made that so I should be able to understand Hashem better. I saw something from far away. Yeah, you're driving on the freeway and there's traffic, so you're women, so this probably is not really part of the way that you drive, but by men, we feel like we're like race car drivers. And so we're always watching on the road in the freeway where the road opens up so we can, zip in and out of the traffic over there. Yeah. Oh, some, okay, fine. Some do drive that way. And some men drive like women, so then we're equal, yeah? But, so we're always looking down the road and we're always saying now that my kids are drivers, oh, Tati, you could have gone there, yeah, okay. So now, but, that means that I can see in advance. I can see beyond where I am right now. I can see far ahead of me what's going on. And again, like we said, now with, again, the advent of cameras and of phones and of videos, all these things, you can literally see something while you're sitting in the comfort of your own home that was filmed thousands of miles away. You could be watching something, they have now this thing live stream, yeah? Which means that somebody's sitting somewhere in some corner of the world and he's live streaming what is going on in front of him, and you're sitting over here in the valley and you're watching on your phone. That means that your eyes have the ability to see things in real time, thousands and thousands of miles away. Or they have telescopes that are going into the black holes of this world. So that means through the telescope, you're able to see things that are tens of thousands of miles and light years away. That means I look at my eyes and I look around the world and I think that's, imagine what I can see. Imagine what Hashem's eyes can see. Imagine what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking at. He's watching the whole world all of the time. Everything that's going on. You think that he doesn't see the people suffering in the world with coronavirus today? He sees it all. He knows it all. He hears it all. He feels it all. Our emotion, we have a heart. Yeah? And the heart of a person is the seat of all of our emotions. And when someone else is going through pain, you could feel their pain. When somebody else is rejoicing, if you want to allow yourself to be jealous of them, you'll feel the simcha, the joy together with them. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He's the same, and 1,000,000,000 infinite times more, which means when we are in pain, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is suffering together with us in pain. He feels it. When we are happy and we rejoice and things are going well and we see the shefa, the bounty of bracha in our lives, HaKadosh Baruch Hu feels our joy. He's rejoicing together with us. And so on and so forth. When we're sad, when we're lazy, when we're down, when we're up, when we're angry, with all the different things. Hashem he senses, he feels it. He understands it. There's certain people, they're very in tune with other people. And whoever is around them, right away they feel. They feel the essence, the aura, the vibes of that person. Right away they're picking up on that person. And they look, everything okay? Yeah, everything's fine. Sure? Yeah, everything's fine. And he feels already, no, not everything is fine, because they can feel the aura of that person that is there. If a human being can do that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does it, he does it infinitely greater. And therefore, our physical parts, our body, everything that we have about ourselves, all of that is just the chesed that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did, so that we should be able to understand him much better. So our body becomes a chelik of our emunah, it becomes a part of our expression of our faith. In my bisari, in my flesh, says David HaMelech, there I can see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why? Through my fingers, through my hands, through my feet, through my toes, through my mouth, through my nose, through my ears, through my eyes, through everything that I have, I'm able to be a witness and testify that there's a creator in this world who does all of these miraculous things. Now I want to leave you with an idea that Rav Weinberg brings down in the sefer that they wrote up of his ideas on the Yud Gimel Ikrim. And he says a very important point about this whole concept of why it is that Hashem has no body. Because if Hashem wanted to, Hashem could do anything. And Hashem could have made himself a goof, he could have made himself a body. He could have made himself into this physical entity that's here in this world, and everybody would have known where to go to find Hashem. And if you had to climb a tall mountain, or you had to go to the four corners of the world, wherever it would have been, but Hashem could have, if he wanted to, he could have. Yet he doesn't, because Hashem is incorporeal. He doesn't have any physicality to him. Now, why is it so important that Hashem has no physicality? I just went recently to the Ronald Reagan Museum, and they have this display over there of a city from Egypt, going back thousands of years, that it fell off. It was built on like the edge of the sea, and with the erosion over time, the whole city fell into the ocean over there. And so everything is in pristine condition, and they just pulled it up. What is the whole thing? The whole thing is avodah zarah. The whole thing is idol worship to the nth degree. Bizarre, twisted statues and images and ideas and complicated stories of mythology and black magic and all different things. And they specifically make their gods physical, human-like, animal-like, mixtures and combinations of different things. It's interesting they put that at a certain point, the Greeks came over to that part of the world, and they fused themselves into the Egyptian society, and the Greeks had their own set of gods. They had their own mythology. So what did they do? So if you can't beat them, join them. So they merged together their gods and the Greek gods, and they became like one, which is just ridiculous that you could have a God that you're going to change. You're going to change his shape, you're going to change his form, you're going to change his attitude, what he does. Our God is not like that. He's Shloshah. I didn't change, and I never will change. And I am above and beyond. I'm Kaddish, I'm holy, I'm removed. I'm separate from this world. And therefore, by the very nature of I am, I cannot have a body. So says Rav Weinberg, why is it so important that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't have a body? And he says like this: if Hashem would have a physical body, that means that he would have limitations. He would be limited to space, he'd be limited to time, and he'd be limited to place. That's how it would work. Just like we are. We have a body, so we have 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week. Our body can only run so much without food, without water, without drink. Our body can only exist so long without sleeping. Our body needs some kind of physical and mental stimulation to get us out of bed in the morning to go and do things. So the body needs all of that. I cannot see beyond, I can't see outside the walls of this room everything that's going on. I have great limitations. If, God forbid, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was of a physical nature and form, that would mean, by the very definition of the physical world, Hashem would also have to be limited in what he is able to do, what he is able to see, and the way that he is able to be misyaches, to connect himself to the world and to the people around him. And therefore, what would man come to think? Says Rav Weinberg the following, that if a person would say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is physical, and therefore he has limitations, I would then begin to think that as long as I don't see Hashem, so that Hashem does not see me, and I can get away with whatever I want to in this world. As long as I'm not in the room with God, like a child with their parent, yeah? Now the parents are getting more savvy, they put, honing devices on their children's phones. They've got things, their cars tracking everywhere that they go. They're bugging this is the world that we live in. They're bugging their children's phones so they'll be able to hear conversations. They've got cameras going around. They've got, who knows, satellites up in heaven that's just tracking their kid wherever they are. This is the Meshuggah world that we live in today. So if I would be living in a time, forget about where such a thing is possible, but I'd be living in a time where I see that the only people that can see me is who sees me. And that means I know that once I leave the house on a Saturday night, my parents have no idea what's going on. And I'm with my friends and I'm having a blast. I do whatever I want. My parents will have no idea at all what's going on with me. Says Rav Weinberg, so what's going to be then? A person will say to themselves, well, Hashem is not here. He's physical. He's not in the room with me right now. He's not in the car with me right now. He's not on vacation with me right now because where do you see him? You don't see him. Therefore, a person would begin to feel that if they want to do something that is wrong, instead of knowing that they're doing it under the nose and the awareness of Hashem who's watching them, they would just turn off the lights, or they'd go to another room, or they would go to another country, and they would hide themselves from God, and they would do whatever they want. And then they would get away with what they would think is bloody murder. And they would never, ever have to feel guilty because whatever Hashem can't see, which means whatever, as long as I can't see Hashem, then I'm assuming that Hashem cannot see me, and therefore He doesn't know about what I'm doing. When that teenager is out there on a Saturday night or on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night, whatever it is, doing whatever it is that they are doing, and their parents don't see them, so the parents don't see them, they have no idea what's going on. When that husband is on some business trip across the world, and Rahman al-Islan, he's doing something that is horrible, that is going to undermine and destroy his entire marriage, but the wife doesn't see, so she doesn't know. She doesn't see, she has no idea. And so on and so forth, all the things that we do wrong. It's like when the teacher walks out of the room, and the kids start playing around, and they put the tack on the teacher's chair, and they can't wait for the teacher to come and sit down on that tack. So the teacher didn't know until it was too late, till they sat down on it. Okay, now maybe they're gonna investigate, they're gonna find out afterwards. But at the time, they didn't know. So as long as I can't see Hashem, I can assume that since if Hashem would, God forbid, be physical, Hashem can't see me. And if Hashem can't see me, then I'll do whatever I want. Oh, Hashem can see? He's in the room, I'll just turn off the lights. Says in the beginning of Shulchan Aruch, writes over there, he says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have to live with the understanding that Hashem is everywhere. He's not bound by physical time, space, and place. Hashem is everywhere. And therefore a person thinks, that's why the Shulchan Aruch has a whole series of laws of the modesty that a person has to have in their own bedroom when they are getting dressed. What's the big deal? I'll get dressed any way that I want to get dressed. Says the Gemara, you think that Hashem is not in your bedroom? You think that Hashem is not watching you? And therefore, whatever you do in your life, you have to know you're standing in front of the Ribono Shel Olam, and He's watching us, and He desires a certain type of behavior. Says Rav Weinberg, if Hashem was physical, God forbid, this is the kind of life that we would live in. We would live in a world where we denounce HaKadosh Baruch Hu's ever-present awareness, and then we try to get away with whatever we can as long as we think that Hashem is not watching. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm happy to inform you that I'm incorporeal, which means I am not physical at all. I'm not bound by anything of the physical world. I am kadosh, I'm nivdal v'na'aleh, I am separate and I am above anything in the physical world that you see. Which means you cannot hide from me, says Hashem. I will find you wherever you will go. I will see you, I will hear you, I will understand you, I will know you. But at the same time, the way that it works out to our great benefit is He understands us and He knows the challenges that a person is going through. Which means if we stumble and we fall and we succumb to the Yetzer Hara, we succumb to the pressures of the world around us, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He knows deep in our heart of hearts why we're doing the things that we're doing, and He can be forgiving. He can have mercy. He can have chesed on us. He can be compassionate and kind and overlook the wrong things that we have done. Says Rav Weinberg, if you don't believe in this idea of Hashem existing without a body, so then you will live a life, it's going to be a total illusion and a total sham. Because you will always feel that you can get away with whatever you want to get away with. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu's essence and His awesomeness and His glory and His beauty is such a thing that it tells us, no. I'm watching. Look at your eyes, He says. You know why I gave you eyes? So you should know that I'm also watching you. Look at your ears. You know why I gave you ears? So you should know, just as you hear and you listen, and you can even hear things, you can hear recordings that were made 100 years ago, or maybe not so, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago. You can hear things that are being recorded on the other end of seeing things, like we said, the live stream that's going on. I see also, says Hashem, I say far beyond everything that's going on over here. Once a person begins to realize that puts their amunah, that puts their faith in a very strong and solid place, which means I begin to live with an awareness, knowing that Hashem is everywhere, all of the time. Now, don't let it cripple you, and don't let it paralyze you like all the fear of the coronavirus, because so think about it. First of all, the coronavirus is not everywhere, right? It's not everywhere. It's in throughout the world right now, but it's not spread out everywhere. It's not everywhere. And we're more afraid of the coronavirus than we are of Hashem. You realize that? The world is much more afraid of the virus than they are of the Ribbono Shel Olam. And Hashem is everywhere. You cannot escape Him. You cannot push Him out of the room. You cannot cover Him up and put on a mask and say, okay, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not. It doesn't work like that. Hashem is everywhere. So why aren't we afraid of Hashem? Why aren't we fearful of Hashem? Why aren't we worried and in awe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is watching? Because the virus, the world convinced us, is reality, and Hashem, we're not so sure about the reality. Says the Rambam over here, no. Part of the reality of Hashem is you have to know, Ein Loi Guf, He has no body. But the not having any body makes it. Because of that, we look at our own body, we look at our own self, we look at our own limbs, we look at our own flesh, and we recognize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in fact, uses us to teach us about Him. And if we will begin to strengthen ourselves in these areas, recognizing Hashem's presence that is in this world constantly, we'll realize that the Tselem Elokim, the image of God that we are in, is that we are an image that reminds us of who Hashem truly is. So look at yourself, think to yourself sometimes when you see things, when you hear things, when you listen to another person, when you're compassionate, when you are kind, when you are generous, when you're benevolent, all of these things, think to yourself, that's Hashem. I'll use myself to learn about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which means that we ourselves become a chelik, we become a part of the process of building our amunah, of building our faith, and building our bitachon, our trust in Hashem. And like we said in the very beginning, someone who lives with amunah, and they live with bitachon, they live with trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they have nothing to fear, they have nothing to worry about, they can live a life of menuchas hanefesh. Yes, if they're going to cancel all the schools in Los Angeles, and yes, if they're going to tell us that, God forbid, you can't go to shul on Shabbos, and yes, you can't have anybody at your house anymore, only who is there. If that's going to be the case, so be it. That will be the case. But we're not going to get paranoid. We're not going to get upset. We're not going to get distressed. We're going to use it all in a way to make ourselves more aware of Hashem's presence, and use it as a way, as Hashem, to get closer and closer to Hashem in everything that goes on in this world, and everything that we do, and everything that we are, and everything that we are made up about should be a way to reveal HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence more and more in our lives.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You have a question? I do.
Yes.
It's probably semantics, but you say that God creates us in His image. Do you think it's more imagination coming from the word image, or image coming from imagination, and that's why everybody's different? Because we're not all the same.
You're asking in English or in Hebrew?
Well, I don't know the Hebrew word, but yeah, in English, which I would assume is probably from the Latin.
Right.
What's the
Well,
Image, imagination.
I mean, it could very well be. The word in Hebrew is tselem. Tselem, really, the way you say picture in Hebrew is matzlama, yeah,
Matzlema
is the camera itself,
camera,
right? And it takes slamot. It takes pictures. So when you're looking at that picture, it's not really the person, right? It's an image of the person who has now been contained in this picture over here. So we are like an image of Hashem. We're not really Hashem, because only Hashem is Hashem. But our body is giving this structure, so to speak, to the reality that exists of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When you see a picture of somebody, you know that person exists. Now they're not there because they're in the picture, but the picture is telling you that that person is there, is a real person. So the Tselem Elokim, the image of God, is teaching us also that Hashem is real and He exists. Just my image that I am in of Him is just like some microcosm, perception to allow us to understand deeper into the way Hashem runs the world.
Okay, I'm gonna check and see what
Okay, you'll let us know.
in Latin.
Okay, have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.